Hello, good evening. This is Shugadobo speaking. And today I'd like to speak a few words about the great Indian revolutionary Netaji, who was called by Gandhiji Prince among Patriots. And although there was some ideological difference between Gandhi and Bose, nonetheless, Bose followed his own path and Gandhi did his own. Then Bose had to leave the country after the Haripura Congress. Bose was elected, was nominated president of the Congress by Gandhiji, and he formulated his very radical program of disciplining Congress into an armed outfit, so to say, a non-violent army of disciplined workers, which Gandhiji did not like, and he asked Bose to abdicate his post, so to say, in the following Tripuri Congress, but Bose refused, and he said it was a most opportune moment for him to press home the advantage that was coming in the wake of the impending World War II. Gandhiji, finding no other way, could not get his way, and as Bose refused to relent and said that he would contest the election, Gandhiji fielded his own candidate in the form of Pattabhi Sitaramaiah, and in advance said that if Pattabhi was defeated, then Pattabhi's defeat would mean his own personal defeat at the hands of Bose. As it turned out, Bose did defeat Pattabhi Sitaramaiah in the ensuing Tripuri Congress elections, presidential elections, by a handsome margin of 200 votes, and was elected president. Now Gandhi was in a tight spot, so to say, and did not know what to do. Indian politics was on the crossroads, and there was now an impending split that would be taking place, and Gandhiji asked the working committee members to refuse to cooperate with Bose. And when the Tripuri Congress working committee met, the working committee members all refused to pass Bose's resolution, with Nehru abstaining, and Bose, finding it impossible to carry on without the working committee helping him, chose to resign the presidency. Matters worsened, and Bose had to resign other offices in the Congress, and finally he was expelled from the Congress itself, and Bose floated his own party called Forward Bloc. And thereafter he was arrested by the British under when he violated I think it was the Defence of India Act or so, and he was incarcerated, and he underwent a hunger strike, whereupon the authorities were forced to release him and kept him under house arrest. Bose made a dramatic escape in the guise of a Pathan, and through the Khyber Pass and all, he escaped to Afghanistan, and thereafter, under the guise of an Italian Count, Orlando Mazzotta, with an Italian passport, he went into Russian territory, where Stalin gave him a transit visa to Berlin, and from there Bose met Adolf Hitler, and also raised his own small army called the Free India Legion. But as Hitler invaded Russia, the Soviet Union, with his Operation Barbarossa, things didn't work out quite the way Bose wanted, and he was advised by Hitler to board a submarine, which he did from Kiel, and he reached Sumatra after a 90-day submarine journey through the Atlantic and then the Indian Ocean, whereupon he boarded an aeroplane and flew to Tokyo to meet Prime Minister Tojo of the Imperial Government of Japan. There he negotiated with the Japanese authorities and for help, and the Japanese decided to help the Indian independence movement, which Bose was trying to lead, and he flew to Singapore. There Raj Bihari Bose, on the 6th of July 1943, handed over the charge of the Indian Independence League to Bose, Subhash Chandra Bose, that is. Now there are two Boses, Raj Bihari Bose and Subhash Chandra Bose. Raj Bihari Bose, the senior, that is, he handed over the charge of the Indian Independence League to Subhash Chandra Bose, and thereafter, on the 21st of October 1943, that is the same year, Subhash Chandra Bose raised, he formed his Azad Hind government, that is the provisional government of Free India, and he also, with the help of Rash Bihari Bose, organized the Indian National Army 2. The first one had been under Mohan Singh, Captain Mohan Singh, which had been disbanded owing to differences arising between the Japanese and Mohan Singh, and now INA 2 was under Bose. He then, with his army, he went into Rangoon, Burma, which had fallen by the way to the Japanese, and the British had lost control, and from there they waged a war against the British Crown, Anglo-American forces, and Bose's army along with the Japanese Nippon army, the INA. They marched into Manipur, and Imphal, there was a very severe battle for Imphal, which unfortunately due to unforeseen circumstances did not fall, and there were some betrayals by the INA also. Nonetheless, there were significantly large amounts of amount of area, a big territory of the Indian landmass which fell under INA's control. And earlier the Japanese Bose had landed in Andaman and Nicobar Islands on the 30th of December 1943, and the Japanese had handed over the civil governance of Andaman and Nicobar Islands to Bose. That was the first step, but that was not mainland India. Now mainland India in Manipur came under him, and now Bose started governing that with his provisional government. He had his own bank, he had his own currency, he had his own civil and military administration. Of course, it was a military martial law was imposed, and however, unforeseen circumstances, heavy rains, and the tide of war changing, Bose had to retreat. And thereafter, in 1945, Japan was atom bombed by America. Hiroshima on the 6th of August 1945, Nagasaki on the 9th of August, and remember on the 8th of May earlier, in the same year in 1945, Germany had surrendered. So now with Japan capitulating under the nuclear attack, the Axis powers surrendered unconditionally to the Allied powers. INA did not surrender. Now between the 15th of August and the 18th of August, Bose had to organize somehow what he would do, and he planned that with the strategy that he would somehow go via the Iran and enter Russia, Soviet Russia, where he already had his office going on at Omsk in Siberia, and he thought that at the end of the Second World War, the Cold War would break out between the Soviet Russia and its allies in the Warsaw Pact countries, and so to say the NATO powers of America, England and all. So he knew that the allies of the Second World War were mutual enemies, ideological enemies, and they would break up after the war, and then Soviet Russia would be a bitter enemy of the Anglo-American forces. Throughout the war, Bose had fought with Japan against the Anglo-American forces. Not a word had he spoken against Stalin or anybody. So it was now, he had nowhere to go. He could not come to India because India was still under the British. He couldn't have gone to Japan because Japan would be under American control. There was no place where he could go except the Soviet Union, and he did go into Soviet Union. He gave the ruse. There was a smoke screen he created by staging an aircraft crash at Taihoku airport on the 18th of August 1945, which subsequent declassifications and all have shown that there was no such admissions by the Taiwanese government today. We know that there was no such air crash, not even in the vicinity of the 18th of August, or even within a month and a half. Therefore, the question of Bose's plane having crashed and Bose having died of third-degree burns, as was claimed and as was upheld by the Shahnawaz Committee report and the Khosla Commission report of two commissions that were made to investigate Bose's disappearance, these fell flat, and the Mukherjee Commission, which was set up under the Atal Bihari Vajpayee government in 1999, the commission concluded that there was no aircraft crash and Bose had not died that way. In fact, Justice Mukherjee privately admitted that he was 100% convinced that Bose had turned into a monk, a sannyasi called Gumnami Baba or Bhagwanji or Pardewala Baba. And he had turned into a monk, but there was no way that he could say that he could write that in his commission report, because there was no clinching evidence to claim it to be so. But personally, he was 100% convinced. And that the Mukherjee Commission report was tabled, and of course, the UPA government in 2004 saw to it that it was summarily dismissed without any investigation, and the Khosla Commission report and the Shahnawaz Committee report, they were upheld. And although the Mukherjee Commission, which was a later report and a more detailed report and a more detailed investigation, came to the conclusion that Bose had not died in the air crash, the government's official stance still today remains that Bose had died in the air crash. It is a laughingstock that it should be so. Our determined effort will be to see to it that the government, the NDA government, once more tables the Mukherjee Commission report, and then orders a fresh inquiry to complete the Commission's inquiry by some other suitable judge, so that one gets to know what actually happened. Now, there are several things that happened. This was one, the air crash, which never took place. Now, what had happened? Bose had gone, they say, to Soviet Russia. Purobi Roy, the eminent Russian scholar and ex-professor of Jadavpur University, had gone in 1995 to the Soviet Union on behalf of the Asiatic Society of Kolkata, and there with an ex-Warsaw Pact general, Alexander Kolesnikov, she had been privy. Kolesnikov had been privy to a file of in the Russian archive, slightly away from Russian military archive, slightly away from Moscow, where he came to see a file, a document, which said that Stalin's cabinet, that is Molotov, then and several others, I forget the name, Jacob Malik and all these people, they did not know what to do with Bose. This was October 1946. They didn't know what to do with Bose, what to do with Chandra Bose, who was there in Russia. And Kolesnikov is on record having said that Bose was in Russia, but thereafter, he has been silent. And when the Mukherjee Commission wanted to interview him, he just a few days before the commission could reach Moscow, maybe the previous day only, he was transferred to Ankara as a diplomat, and he could not be interviewed. So the Russian leg of the Mukherjee Commission's inquiry fell flat, so to say. They came back empty-handed, and nothing much could be done. Now, the government of India has declassified many files on Bose, but many others are still there. Some of the files that have been declassified conclusively prove, so researchers say, that Bose had never married, although it is claimed that Bose had married his secretary called Emilia Schenkel, an Austrian lady. But researchers claim that there are files to prove to the contrary, that Bose had never married and neither had a child, and that is called Anita Bridget Pfaff, which is claimed to be Anita Bose Pfaff. Well, Anita's birth certificate doesn't show Subhash Chandra Bose to be the father, although the Indian government has been holding it as gospel truth that Bose had married and had fathered a child. And there is a letter in the on display in the Netaji Research Bureau in Kolkata, where Bose is purportedly, allegedly having has written a letter, which I have read also in English, to his elder brother Sharat Chandra Bose, where he claims that he is married, where he says that he is married and has a daughter, and that he was requesting his elder brother to give them as much love in his absence should he die in the war. But then Bose always wrote to his elder brother, and the letter is in Bengali, but Bose had always written in his life throughout to his elder brother Sharat Chandra Bose in English. Now maybe he had written in Bengali so that Emilia would not read, but the question is, there was no mention of Emilia or Anita or anything, no names are there. And many people believe it's a forged letter. Well, one doesn't know. Forensic testing and all these need to be done, which I think has not yet been done. The family hasn't come forward to do that. So one cannot say that the letter is authentic till it is really authenticated under forensic testing. Similarly, a cache of letters, I think 300 letters, 300 odd love letters of Bose were one day delivered to the family, so to say, and these have been now published in the form of a book which claim that Bose had written these letters to his wife, Amelie. Well, again, there has been no forensic testing done on this. So this is one problem. Bose, many people believe he married and had a child. Many others believe that he had never married. He was a celibate all his life. Then there is the other thing, that Shishir Kumar Bose, Bose's nephew, had claimed that he had driven his Rana Kaka Babu, that is his uncle, Bose, in a wanderer's car to Gomo station, from where he had boarded the train to Peshawar, and thereafter he had gone on foot with Bhagat Ram Talwar to Kabul. But the Bradshaw timings in the year 1941 of that frontier mail and the train from Gomo to Kabul, this was this doesn't match. There are some discrepancies, and so there is an alternative theory that Bose had actually not gone by the car that way, and Shishir Kumar Bose had not driven him at all. Now these are debatable issues, and that the Sikhs, Shardul Singh, Kabir Sher and the likes, they had helped Bose, the Kirti Kisan Party, they had helped Bose escape via a different route altogether, Bardhaman, Barwan and all, etc. And maybe he had met Rabindranath Tagore, and before going along a different route altogether, and then of course he went into Kabul. In fact, Rabindranath Tagore has written an excellent short story called Badnam, in which the revolutionary Anil escapes to Afghanistan, and Tagore ends this way. By the time the British police got to know that revolutionary Anil has escaped, Anil had gone far beyond their clutches, and he was way ahead in the going on foot across Afghanistan. The same route Bose had followed, and one wonders why Tagore, 2 months before his death, had to write such a short story with such great uncanny similarities to Bose's own exit from India, escape from India. Did Bose make Tagore a party to his plans? There are some who say that Sharat Chandra Bose, these researchers who claim that Shishir Bose had not driven, they say that Sharat Chandra Bose also was not privy to Bose's program. Neither was Shishir Bose privy to it, but Aurobindo Bose and Dijen Bose, these two of Bose's nephews, had helped Bose escape, and they were imprisoned, and they were subjected to the severest torture, whereas Shishir Bose was not imprisoned that way. And when he was imprisoned, so to say, I think in Lahore jail, he was imprisoned in the name of Sansar Chandra. Sansar Chandra, that is the British changed his name. Well, in the history of the Indian freedom movement, no political prisoner, no freedom fighter who was a political prisoner, his name had ever been changed, and this was a unique case. Whatever, these are great issues that confront us. We are, it's a maze, really. Bose's whole life is a maze. One never knows whether he married and had a child, or whether he was not married. Whether he went by car out of India, out of Kolkata, driven by Shishir Bose, or he had gone with the Sikhs, Shardul Singh and all. Then, whether he had died in air crash, well, he did not. Or he had been incarcerated by Stalin in Russia and then executed, or he had survived the Stalinist period and he was then executed by Khrushchev and Bulganin and the rest after the CPSU, 20th CPSU in 1956, and he was executed in 1957. Or Stalin had released him before his own death, and Bose had slipped into India via into India and had settled as a monk incognito, as Gumnami Baba, that is one without a name. who was called Paddewala Baba, Gumnami Baba, some people called him Bhagwanji, and he had been in Nimsad, there is Naimisharanya, then in Basti, Ayodhya, Lucknow, Brahmakund, and Faizabad, and finally on the 16th of September 1985, he died, so to say, and was cremated in Ayodhya at the Guptar Ghat, where ages ago Ramchandra, Lord Ram, had embraced Salil Samadhi, water burial in grief. And Bose had also been cremated, but nobody had seen Gumnami Baba's body. So one never knows whether Bose had actually died or this was yet another eyewash, and that somebody else had been cremated or a thing had been cremated, and Bose, the real one, as Gumnami Baba now, he had escaped yet again, and people say that he is meditating in Gyanganj in the high Himalayas, protected, and he is in a great penance. So these are the things that confront us. Today, many people say he can't come out in the open because he's a war criminal at the end of the Second World War, because he was the head of a state. Bose's government, the Provisional Government of Free India, was recognized by 11 governments of the world, including Adolf Hitler's Germany, Mussolini's Italy, King Hirohito's Japan, then Stalin's Russia. They all had recognized him, and therefore Bose, at the end of the war, like the other heads of state, he was declared a war criminal. And so the UN records have him as a war criminal, and therefore he cannot come out, because there is an agreement, they say secret agreement between the government of India and Great Britain and the Allies, that is, that if they get hold of Bose, they should hand him over to the Allies for trial. Like Eichmann was tried decades later after the World War II and executed. So Bose, some people say, is still alive, will be executed. So the first thing should be to get the tag of war criminal off from his person. And all these issues confront us. I shall not prolong the talk too much. I will come back to you again. Till then, cogitate on this. Jai Hind.